Gear up, Cobra troops, because the Cobra Rattler is airborne and ready to provide us with complete air superiority. In this part 1 of the HasLab GI Joe Classified Cobra Rattler Spotlight, we'll be exploring every bit of detail of the Rattler, design, lights, weapons, features, and scale comparisons you won't see anywhere else. It's time to snake, rattler, and roll, only at Heroic Nonsense. Let's go. So we're finally here. After months and months of agonizing waiting, we finally opened up our Rattler, and it's ready to be shared with the world. This is absolutely the coolest, most impressive looking beast of a vehicle I've ever seen, and I love every bit of it. From its incredible design and features, to its unprecedented size and overall feel, this classified vehicle is unmatched. I've broken down every bit of detail of this attack aircraft in this part 1 of our Rattler Spotlight that I think will really showcase its incomparable nature and will be a great preview of what's to come for the inevitable retail version. I'll also give you guys a scale comparison of the Rattler up against all the other classified vehicle releases, plus a bonus comparison to the original 118 Rattler design itself. If you love GI Joe classified reviews, HasLab vehicles, and Rattler nostalgia, I've got you covered. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss part 2. And here it is, the GI Joe Classified HasLab Cobra Rattler in all its glory. And what can I say that I haven't already? It's honestly out of this world. Based off of the equally infamous A-10 Thunderbolt II subsonic attack aircraft, otherwise known as the Warthog, this tank killer in classified form brings all that raw power and energy and amps it up tenfold. For those of us who grew up with the original back in the 80s, this version of the Rattler will immediately transport you back to your youth. It's got everything you'd expect to find on the Cobra Rattler and more, just scaled up. And when I say scaled up, I'm not kidding. This thing is huge. Not only that, but out of all the classified vehicles, this feels the most realistic. I don't know if it's because of the perfect paint job, the real-world based design, or something else, but the Rattler is just perfection. Even my wife was beyond impressed, let alone my kids who couldn't believe their eyes. Honestly, the first thing I noticed after the size was the beautiful paint job with that perfect shade of Cobra blue, which completely draws you in. Once locked in, you notice all the molded in detail and decals like this fully outlined warning, which likely would have simply been reduced to nondescript lines on anything smaller. These design elements and decals extend throughout the plane on every part, from the panels to the wings to the fuselage. Unique to the Rattler and first seen on the original from the 80s is the gunner turret, which fits a fully sized classified male figure perfectly, and has been upgraded with some more high-tech looking lasers, but still keeps its overall original design. The turret itself is able to rotate 180 degrees, with the lasers being able to be raised about 45 degrees. Both sides are detailed to the same degree, inspired by and in some cases replicating some of the original stickers and molded in designs. Again, right through to the back and on the wings. And the stabilizers at the back of the Rattler retain both the real world and original toy design perfectly, including the Rattler specific built-in third engine on the tail. Plus, you get the Cobra Rattler emblem emblazoned along with the Z06 call sign, this time on the horizontal stabilizers versus the vertical ones. Those same striking symbols also appear on the wings, and as some of you know by now, I'm a sucker for great logos, and you just can't beat the Cobra Rattler one, especially when placed on a wing. The whole thing is a work of art, with more and more details popping out the more you look at it. Plus, this design is just so sleek and cool looking, and so iconic. The added touches of black complete the look perfectly. Now let's get into some more specific details, starting with the landing gear, which I personally think they had to nail, and they did. It looks realistic and retracts. And the wheels even have the words Cobra VTOL engraved on them. Also, check out those double-sided tires for the back landing gear. You can see here some more details like the decals, as well as how the back landing gear looks retracted once airborne. Same here for the front landing gear, which really tucks away seamlessly. And all it takes to drop the landing gear is a quick press of one of the many buttons on this plane. You do need to manually put them back in though. Similar to the original Rattler, you can replace one of the side panels near the cockpit with one that has been riddled with bullets, in a really nice finish that adds to the realism. Also, like the original, the cockpit can break away into two parts so that you can more easily get Wild Weasel into his seat. Both the main cockpit and the gunner's cover close up effortlessly, and I'm happy to say are on properly secured hinges. While we'll only get to the figures in detail in part 2, You can't deny here how awesome Wild Weasel looks strapped into the Rattler's cockpit. And look at that detail. That's all made up of clear or molded plastic with a ton of extremely detailed readouts placed throughout the cockpit. As far as the controls for flying the Rattler go, one side has a throttle for his left hand that can move up and down, while the right hand has a joystick controller that rotates around its base. Not to be outdone, the turret also has some fantastic detail built into its controls that surround the Rattler gunner, as well as an LED display panel we'll see shortly. Wild Weasel fits right in and has a 4-point harness that takes a bit of work to get locked. Once in, however, it keeps Wild Weasel in place for those extreme airborne maneuvers. Looks great as well. It's these bits of detail that really complete the package. A bonus add-on unique to the Classified Rattler is this really nicely designed ladder that's stored away right beneath the cockpit. I really love this added bit of detail, and I'll definitely highlight more of it in part 2 where we'll look at all my display and build ideas. Also special to the Classified HasLab Rattler is this extra longer ladder that can be used to climb onto the wing for repairs or for the gunner to use to get in. The devs really thought about everything, even adding this small slot on the wing for the ladder edge to fit into. Now let's take a look at the engines, which have spinners that actually spin like the original, and wow, do they look good. Even more incredible, each of the wing engines can be opened up on hinges, with highly detailed painted components revealed inside. The wires, paint applications, detail, it's really incredibly intricate, and a perfect added touch to this already amazing aircraft. As for the wings themselves, another quick press of a button on each side and they pull out and fold away for easy storage on a Cobra flying aircraft carrier, or more realistically on your shelf, either for space reasons or for display purposes. And the part you've probably all been waiting for, the VTOL mechanism. Just like in the original, the incredible engineers at Mars have incorporated the VTOL aspect into the Classified Rattler as well. And what it reveals is an arsenal of weapons, all unique and specialized to the Rattler itself. And count them yourselves, 7 pieces of heavy ordnance on each wing. What's great is that you can actually name the different types of weapons here thanks to the names having been engraved on most of the sides, and they all have really unique designs. This cluster bomb actually has small rounded pieces of plastic that you can see through a clear plastic window, and they're actually individual pieces poured into the casing. There are 2 missiles, this one seeming like a very specific Cobra designed one, the electro-optical target seeking missile, which actually splits into 2. The other is my favorite, a classic heat-seeking missile for the dogfights with the Ostriker when push comes to shove. And look at these 2 babies, one for each side, each with their own design. In case you can't see, the second says best regards. Now that's some next level trolling right there. And finally, you have these 3 bombs on each side, very similar in design to the original Rattler from the 80s. You can use these pieces here to attach them, which I kind of like as a separate piece, so technically they can be removed and not inadvertently cracked off. And you can also have this more realistic look once the payload has been delivered. A couple of more pieces of ordnance under the body of the Rattler can be attached if you'd like, though their slots are located where the plane connects to the stand, meaning they have to be removed when displayed. And of course, you have on the nose the characteristic Rattler Gatling gun. No Rattler is complete without one. The thing is, we're not done yet with the review of what the HasLab Rattler has to offer, because you actually get 3 different outer lights to use for night operations under the cover of darkness. And this is where the 4th button comes into play, with really smooth transitions between the different versions. Different from the other HasLabs, these turn off after 2 minutes. But if you thought that was it for the lighting effects, think again, because there's also lighting on the side panel, which can only be seen when you have the shot up version displayed. And it even looks like the mechanical elements inside are on fire and sparking, which is also replicated in Wild Weasel's control panel as red flickers of light. If you remove the panel, you get a good look at how the effect is created and also gives you another way you can play and display. As impressive as this display is on its own, look how cool it looks lit up in red. Even more impressive, the panels on each side of Wild Weasel also light up. And let's not forget the Rattler gunner, who also has some lit up displays. Now that is cool. So the Rattler on its own is impressive, we all know that, but a plane of this size really needs its own proper display. And so that's where this comes in, and I have to say, I really like this design, even more than the one for the HasLab Classified Dragonfly. And it allows for 5, not 2, different ways of displaying the Rattler, taking off, dive bombing, flying straight, and banking left or right. And what to do with those 2 extra pieces of heavy ordnance that need to be removed for the display? Well, you can place them on each side, along with all the other armaments if you so wished. Now to really make the display complete, the HasLab Rattler comes with all these blast and laser effects, some more practical than others. One way you can use this effect is to launch the front missile off of the larger portion. You can also use one of the smaller effects for the Gatling gun on the front. As for the smallest blue laser effect, these go right here for the Rattler Gunner's turret lasers. They've even modified them so that the connector is a bit longer so it stays really nicely in place. These effects are probably my favorite ones though. They look incredible here shooting out of the back of the wing engines, though a third would have been perfect for the back. However, you can use this larger one for the back, similar to how the Rattler looked on the original 80s packaging. I prefer using it where it should be used, however, with the missiles. And putting it all together, this is what you get, and that is one amazing work of art. Just very quickly, I wanted to show you how the display works for the different display options, this being the bombing run position. You can see how it connects here using the extra slanted piece. If you take that extra plastic piece off, you can have the plane flying straight. So you get a very nice, fast attack look for your Rattler. Alternatively, you can have the Rattler taking off, which also looks really good. To be honest, all these poses are equally cool. And finally, a few shots of the Rattler banking to one side, which is achieved by turning the attachment piece 90 degrees in either direction, something I don't think they really advertised much. Let us know which is your favorite or how you would display your Rattler in the comments section. And I even like having these two extra pieces of ordnance right at the top, almost looks like it's part of the plane. As I was finalizing this video, I thought of something quite unique for a display idea, so I went back and took some extra shots. If you switch out some of the bombs, you can make it look like the plane is actually dropping them. Whatever you end up doing, this display stand has you covered. And another hidden surprise, all your extra pieces that the Rattler comes with, you can store them inside the base by sliding out this part of it. It even has a place for these patches, which I know were a point of contention for some, but I do actually like them. Very 80s, wouldn't you say? Because this is such a huge episode, I'm breaking it up into two parts with a figure review and display ideas portion left for part 2. However, I will hint at some started ideas for displays as we compare the Rattler to other classified vehicles. But let's first start with a straightforward comparison of the Rattler head-on versus essentially all the other airborne and ground GI Joe classified types of vehicles. And I think we now have the biggest and most impressive classified vehicle to date, which should be evident by these images, which shows it dwarfing anything next to it, especially as we get to the smaller ones. I especially like how the round looks next to the Rattler, not sure why, perhaps I'm getting flashbacks of Top Gun. I even threw in the Cobra modular outpost because I think they'll make for some nice build ideas, which I'll showcase in a bit soon. As for the Dragonfly, they actually look better next to each other from this angle than I thought they would, and I'll tell you why when we take a closer look at the two. From this angle, however, you really get a great view of the scale of this thing, even next to the Hiss, which typically looks big, even next to larger vehicles like the Dragonfly. I also think that all the other vehicles look really well proportioned next to the Rattler, as evident by these shots, and it totally works from a realism perspective. My favorites having to be the Stinger and Ferret, and of course the Ram again. Actually, come to think of it, I like how they all scale next to the Rattler, and that Cobra outpost just looks fantastic next to the Rattler with that big Cobra symbol on its side. As for the Dragonfly, I think it holds up nicely. The reason I was surprised by how well they look next to each other was simply because of the way the Dragonfly is designed, thin and low to the ground. So when I placed it next to the Hiss, for example, it seemed a bit underwhelming, at least when grounded. However, having these two next to each other really restores my faith in the size and scale of all the vehicles, including the Dragonfly, especially now that it has a proper enemy to take the fight to in the skies. As for the stands, I like both, and I think they appropriately serve the aesthetic for each vehicle, though on their own, I'd likely choose the Rattler one given the overall look and versatility of it. Placing them next to each other, which I currently can't do in this way because of the way my displays are set up at home, they look incredible. Two major airborne classified vehicles going head to head in the sky. You can't get better than that. At some point, I think I may ultimately have to set them up this way in our collection. Now, I wanted to showcase these three next to each other because, to me, these perfectly represent the initial era of GI Joe, the Cobra Stinger, Hiss, and of course, the Rattler. And it all serves somewhat of a display idea introduction for part 2, and man, do these three vehicles look awesome next to each other. Especially with a Cobra Trooper thrown in for good measure, given the overall original 80s theme we're going for here. I also suspect I'll have some fun display ideas using the Cobra modular fortification as well. Though here I'm just giving a glimpse into how I think I'll start building a display around it. If you have any ideas you'd like me to work on for part 2, please let me know in the comments section and I'll see what I can do. I'll even give you a call out in that episode if it makes it to the cut. One of my biggest regrets, at least as it relates to my original GI Joe collection, was that I never got that original 80s dark blue Rattler. But I did manage to get one of the next best things, the gold Cobra Rattler from the GI Joe vs. Cobra line from I believe 2002. And it gives a pretty good idea of how closely the two Rattlers line up in design and accessories. I'd wager to say that the Classified Rattler is an almost note-for-note replica of the original, with some nice slightly upgraded design elements, like the rounded out thrusters. I also think that the more streamlined classified cockpit looks way better while still keeping the overall same look. And I couldn't leave out a sneak peek of my original Wild Weasel that I got from somewhere, no idea where though. While the 1/18 scale Rattler did come with 2 removable panels with a long side panel on the back for the other side, this one shown here is replicated and updated with lights on the classified one as we saw earlier. And the VTOL ability is clearly present on both versions, though as you can see here, the classified one carries more ordnance and a hell of a lot bigger ones than the original. But still, I find the Classified Rattler to be one of the most consistently similar versions of an original design to date, and you wouldn't be able to have it any other way. The box art review will come in part 2, but I did want to quickly show you the instructions booklet and stickers, which is always fun for these types of big releases. As I've said in the past, I do really like the tech specs and original homage instructions feel to these. The HasLab Rattler did in fact require a fair amount of putting together, which is nice as well. The instructions even show you a tech specs version of how to use the lights and build the display. My display base did actually come with a slight issue, but I was easily able to take it apart and fix the problem. Like the HasLab Dragonfly, the Cobra Rattler comes with a ton of stickers. This one allows you to build up the decal similar to the original, as you may have noticed that the base version that comes out of the box is a bit bare. For now, however, I think we'll leave it the way it came, but if we do update it, I'll do a short and show you guys. You also get a few sheets of more creative ways to sticker up your HasLab Rattler, which I suspect we won't do. These bigger ones though can be used on the display base itself. The Cobra Rattler symbol is tempting, so we may use that. I really like this second sheet, and if I knew that they would look good and not look like stickers, I would potentially use some of these. I particularly like the Cavalry version of Cobra Commander, though the others are fun as well, especially the Springfield inspired ones like the Wave If You're With Cobra one. I have a good buddy I've met on here that builds custom displays for his GI Joe classified figures, and he comes up with some really creative ideas. I suspect he'd have some good ways to incorporate these stickers into his bases, which is definitely something you could do with these. If you're into really cool custom display ideas, check out his channel Stanton. I'll link the channel below. So that's it for this week's Spotlight. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the GI Joe classified HasLab Cobra Rattler. And be sure to come back for part 2, where we'll look at the figures themselves, as well as showcase some great display ideas for your collection. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's all such heroic nonsense in the end.
Transform!